Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Doug Show Live. We are joined today by my friend Shawna Newman from Skipblast.com, and we're going to talk about, actually, we're just going to catch up. We haven't chatted in a pretty long time, so
Mhm.
we're just going to catch up on a bunch of things, but we're going to talk about probably AI, the future of niche websites, and just working online in general. And if you have questions out there, let us know in the chat, which we'll hop around and get to, of course. Sean has been on the show several times, and we had the pleasure, or I had the pleasure, really, I assume it was your pleasure too, Shauna, to meet me, but it was great to meet you in person almost a year ago. And we got to hang out for several days over in San Diego. So that was really fun. And I think you haven't, I don't even remember if you've been on the show since then, but welcome. How are things going?
Going good, but I'm a little offended, I have to say, because we actually met in Bozeman like 2 years before
Oh,
that.
that's right.
Yeah, so I'm a little hurt, a little hurt.
I totally forgot. You were, funny enough, you were one of the first people that I met online that I know from online, and you were going through Bozeman. I totally
Yeah,
forgot. Yeah, we met up in the little Starbucks, like right on Main
yeah,
Street there, which ironically, I'm going back to Bozeman in a couple days.
nice.
So, yeah. Okay. So we met way back and then we rekindled our friendship about a
Yeah.
year ago. So, for the people that don't know you, Shauna, can you give a quick intro, how you got to be working online and all that?
Yeah, so I started dabbling making sites back in probably like 2002, 2003 while I had a day job. I was like supposed to be working, but I was really working on sites. Then, like, fast forward to like 2008, 2009, the recession hit the US, so I ended up losing my job. I probably should have lost it before then, but that's another story. So basically, I just went full time while I was on unemployment benefits at the time and been doing it ever since.
Awesome. Now, you have Skip Blast, and what do you
Mhm.
blog about over there?
Mostly just like random thoughts that I have about the industry, but I also do try to regularly post case studies, just interesting things that I've discovered running my portfolio. I actually have 3 case studies I'm getting ready to launch on Skipblast as well. So
Okay. Three is a lot to do all at once. Are some of them already in
yeah,
progress or something?
yes, yes. So I actually won a age domain from Cuppa, which is an AI tool. So I'm going to be doing that as a like a live case study with the URL public. I mean, it was announced on Twitter, so everyone already knows it who saw that. I'm also doing a case study I've started where I've taken 100 keywords and I'm going to post them to several sites, and each site is going to use a different AI content tool because I want to see like which one has the longevity, which one will survive an algorithm update, rank the best, things like that. Because like no one's really done that study yet, and I want to know both for me and just like I'm sure everyone else wants to know as well. And actually, my mind just went blank. I don't remember what my third case study is. So
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha. And what's your portfolio like these days? So I think when we've talked in the past, you've had quite a few sites.
Yeah. So before I tell you this number, I do want to preface this with more than half of my sites are test sites right now. So I have 73 sites right now. Only around 30 of those are ones where I'm like keeping them clean, actively growing them and earning from them. And the rest are all just like random tests that I'm running where I'm trying to have like a controlled environment.
Okay, that's quite a few.
Yeah. Yeah.
How big's your team?
Full time, it's just me. My wife is a writer, so whenever she's in between projects, I kind of recruit her to do stuff with me. And then at any given time, depending on what sites I'm working on, I'll have 2 to 6 freelancers who I just kind of work with part time.
Okay, and that's kind of ad hoc, and you'll just find out
Right.
their availability and kind of ramp it
Yeah.
up as needed.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. And is it hard to keep everything straight?
Yes, because what I will do is I will launch a site with a few posts and then leave it to marinate in the SERPs, right? And then I'll forget about it. Like just this past week, I discovered a site I started 2 years ago that has 2 posts, is getting 6,000 monthly sessions, and I've just forgotten about it. So yeah,
It only has two posts.
yeah,
Okay. Well, what tips do you have for people, or perhaps for yourself,
Yeah.
to maybe take that method where you do let these sites and posts marinate
Yeah.
and age a little bit? How do you make sure you come back to it?
Well, if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I have a master spreadsheet and site change logs for each site. But I don't do what I should do and actually refer to those every month. So yeah.
Okay. Do you have like reminders or some kind of thing to pop up, or do you have like a quarterly review where you look over all the spreadsheets or anything like that?
Usually at the end of the month when I pull in all of my numbers from all my affiliate programs and stuff, I look at like my top 10 sites. If I have more time, I'll go through the rest of them. Obviously, I've not had time a lot in the recent years, but that's how I neglected that one site. So,
Okay. Yeah, and that's something I struggle with. Although I'm pretty I'm very good at killing projects, and I'm not starting very many these days.
mhm,
And I usually, unless it's a very amazing opportunity that I keep revisiting in my mind,
right.
I'll usually just, say no. That said, I am bad at, like quarterly reviews or whatever, every
Mhm,
6 months or monthly, to revisit, where you can actually look and see like, okay, here's everything going on. Is that too much? Is that where I want to spend my time? Maybe I should just forget
right.
this project for a while and just not think about it until the annual review. So I don't do any of this stuff, but it seems like a really good idea. I know people that seem like they have their shit together and they do that. So any thoughts on that? No question, but do you have any ideas around that?
I have aspirations to get my shit together like that. Like I got the spreadsheets, I got the Notion documents, but yeah, like it doesn't always, come together for me.
Right. Yeah. It's really hard to do that stuff, but
Yeah.
one thing that has been helpful in the past, which I'm not actively in a mastermind group where accountability is a big thing, but
Mhm.
I mean, I could see a mastermind group coming together where it's just accountability for various intervals of self-assessment. Like, you don't even have to
Right.
tell us what's going on, but you would just have to make sure you do it and go through the exercise. So I don't know, just food for thought for people that are, I guess, more disciplined than you and I.
Yeah, well, actually, I have a private forum for students and people in my membership program, and for in the past few years, what we've done is like a weekly word count challenge for everyone who is writing their own content, and that's worked really well. That type of accountability. I don't know what we're going to start doing though going into next year, since no one's really writing much of their own content these days.
Perfect transition for AI content. And
Mm.
we do have the live chat going. And thanks everybody for popping in, Marcus and Chris and Jonathan. I owe Jonathan an email. I just haven't gotten around to it. In fact, getting ready for this live stream, I saw that Shawna emailed me 12 days ago, and I just emailed her this morning again. So, I'm not great with the email, but there's other stuff going on. That said, we'll answer questions. I'm
Mhm.
logging them, I'm marking them, and we're gonna come back to them in a few minutes here. So, AI tools, there's a lot of them
Mhm.
now, and we're
Mhm.
roughly, I would say, like 11 months or so into
Mhm.
um, the new world with like
Right.
ChatGPT and other sophisticated tools that do a much better job than the older days. So, Shauna, what's your experience so far with some of the AI tools?
I actually spent a long time resisting AI. My undergrad's in English and journalism, so like obviously I was like very against AI content. And then I guess it was like December that I realized, I have to like adapt or die, right? So I've been testing pretty much every tool I've come across. Right now, I'm paying for ZimWriter, ChatGPT Plus. I have Jasper, but I don't use it. ScaleNet also does AI content, but I don't really like their output. And every so often, I will retest Koala. I think they really excel at the buying guides, how they can get that firsthand experience in. I do hate the upcharge though for GPT-4 there, because it is not in line with the actual upcharge if you're just using the API key. But I've been trying like tweaking with ZimWriter and stuff, trying to get the same type of output for those buying guides. And I haven't found another tool that can do it. I've actually taught my wife how to use Koala Writer for some stuff I have her doing for some of my sites as well.
Okay. I resisted a long time as well. And then once ChatGPT came out and I
Mhm.
spent some time with it, and it sounds like you're in the same boat. I mean,
Mhm.
we weren't, perhaps we're a little stubborn in some some aspect, but I mean, if something is working well, like
Yeah.
the merits will stand up, and we're happy to use
Mhm.
something that works, but we're not going to waste our time with stuff that
Right.
doesn't. Have you played around with Claude AI?
No, I do keep seeing people talking about it, and people are actually fighting about it on the FatStacks forum I saw
Mm.
the other day. I am hearing really good things about it, but I kind of feel like there's a new tool, it seems like every week. And so like I'm really trying to focus on getting really good at one thing instead of learning new ones. So
I agree with that. Check out Claude though. So the
okay.
the one main difference is they tested ChatGPT with like the GRE, right? So
Mhm.
ChatGPT was very good with analytics and a couple other like logical things, and it was decent in the writing aspect and
Mhm.
creating content. Claude was not as high in the other things that ChatGPT is good at, the logic and analytics.
Right.
However, content creation and writing, it was like in the 90th percentile. So they kind
Oh
of
wow.
they balance each other
Mhm.
out. It
Mhm.
doesn't have some of the sophisticated like chat back and forth. It's pretty decent, but
Right.
it's not as good in certain areas. But I think Claude was founded by people that left OpenAI because they
Oh,
were
interesting.
afraid of AI taking over essentially,
Mhm.
and they created a another entity. I don't know the classification of
Right.
that organization, but it's called, I think it's Anthropic, and then they created Claude. So it's like really good at creating content, not as good at the logic. But if you don't need the logic portion, then just have things written. It typically tests better um, as not AI compared to ChatGPT. So when you use the AI detectors, it's a little bit more undetectable at this point in time.
Are you using the AI detectors?
Every now and then, not too much, but I'm checking them out. So I'm using originality typically,
Mm,
just because I
right.
know John. Oh yeah,
Right.
he was in
Okay.
San Diego
Yeah.
too.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, what are you doing with the AI detectors? Do you care?
I'm not using them at all because I've seen all the stuff about how like people are putting in like the Bible and the Constitution and stuff, and it can't detect. I feel like as long as you are removing those like telltale signs, like lastly, firstly, thirdly, that AI is putting in, I think you don't really have to worry about it because I don't really think Google is going to be able to tell. I feel like the only way they're going to be able to tell if someone's using AI is that they're going to use things like content velocity, you know, um, because I don't see any other way they're going to be able to know for sure. And I think we're actually going to see a lot of collateral damage once they really start trying to hit sites that are doing full AI content.
Can you expand on that? What do you think will happen?
I mean, I feel like Google can't contain it, and it's going to be like everything else in the history of this industry where they can't contain it, which is there's going to be like a big public thing where a lot of really big sites are going to get hit, much like with PBNs back in the day. That's going to scare everyone and think that, oh, I'm going to get penalized. My site's going to die if I use AI content. And that's exactly what they want. And most people are going to stop using it. And then there's going to be people just crushing it who are going to continue using it and just, basically laughing at everyone who's stopped, just like with PBNs.
Yep. And that's private blog networks. And
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
people still use, private private networks that are a little more. I think that people spend a little more time on them these days, but
Yeah, yeah.
the idea is the same. So in the chat here, a lot of people are mentioning Zimwriter's pretty good. Some other
Yeah.
suggestions out there. So yeah, there's tons of tools, and I ran into the same thing that you did. So I was testing a couple of the tools at first, and then
Mhm.
I just have low interest in trying to like learn every little thing, and it's not
Right.
how I want to spend my time. And I mean, frankly, even if I was creating videos on all this stuff, I just don't find it that interesting to keep testing tools and being the beta tester essentially,
Yeah.
because people are rolling this stuff out really fast,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
some people are my friends or peers or acquaintances or whatever, and I'm like, I'm not gonna beta test your tool, and they're not framing it that way. They're just like, here's
Right.
version 1, like good luck. And I'm like, all right, I've worked in software, so I know
Yeah.
you didn't do your own testing. You just send it
Mhm.
out there. So do you run into a lot of buggy apps out there?
Not not really. My wife actually had a really interesting issue with Koala Writer last week because one of my test sites I'm doing is just like I had her create over 1,700 posts using bulk mode on Koala. And it had an error of actually posting the content to the site. So none of the content auto posted to the site like it was supposed to. So I figured out why that was happening. It was a SiteGround issue. So fixed that. And then she went back in to manually, one by one, of course, publish those posts. And she gets down and not all of the content is actually still visible in Koala. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on with this? Because we paid for this content, it's not here. So she submits a support ticket, and come to find out, they only show the last 1,000 articles in either your sidebar or your project. So, over 700 articles were just missing. So it took like 24 hours for them to respond, and they said, oh, they're still here. This is what's going on, which is what I just explained. And they said, we can either export all of your content as HTML, or we can give you the article IDs, and then you can access them that way. Like, it's not an ideal solution, but okay, that's what we'll do, the article ID. So that was Thursday, I think, when this started. We still have not gotten the article IDs. Their thing is set on exactly 30 days. When your time resets, you lose your credits, right? So time is money here. And so she got so frustrated over the weekend. She's like, I'm just going to see if I delete the articles from the project that I've already uploaded myself, if the old ones appear. And that has worked. But I mean, that plan that she's on is $2,000 a month, 30-day limit to use those 10 million words. The clock is ticking here. Like, what the fuck is going on? And
Mm-hmm.
I say that knowing that the guy who's created the software, he seems to be doing more updates and more changes to it than any of the other AI tools that I've seen. But that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right. Yeah, and I got frustrated a little bit with some, again, not necessarily AI tools, but
mhm.
again, I have a software background, so there should be like a few levels of testing before
Right.
people release it out there. And even in our little world, some people, I mean, it's a lot of money. Like they should be
Yeah.
able to hire a few, unit or system testers to do a quick sanity check and
Hmm.
do regression testing when they roll out stuff. And a lot of people just don't know because, I mean, the
Yeah.
industry is a little bit, people from outside the software industry create software, and then you end up with like poor practices, and they don't have a
Hmm.
project manager or anyone who knows software to step in and say, you shouldn't release your code. You shouldn't just send it out there when you
Yeah.
like change it, because you could break everything. And for some people, it's kind of important. So I don't know. It's tough. Yeah, if you don't know,
Yeah.
then you wouldn't have an idea. But yeah, if they just had like a professional come in to say like, "Hey, you guys should do a couple best practices," or maybe they decided we're not going to do that. We'll just roll it out, and if it breaks, people will complain and they'll let us know.
Well, like, I don't know what the guy's history is who made Koala, but his tool is the only one that I've had issues with. The other issue that I've had, and I've actually seen other people on Twitter talk about this, is sometimes in the output, it will not only include part of your extra prompting, but whatever prompting he has internally. And I'm using GPT-4 at that 5x upcharge on that tool. And so a few months back when I was paying for it, I sent him an email and I was like, there's like 10 articles here where it put the prompt in. I'm paying 5x for these credits. What's going on here? Like, fully expecting him to give me some of those credits back since he was, overcharging for them anyways. He's like, yeah, I don't know why that's happening. Like, that's not the answer when you're running a business. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
especially you and I, we have platforms and we could talk about this stuff, and then it slowly makes its way around. So like your reputation kind of matters. So we have a question. Someone is asking about the 1,700 articles. So this is from
Mhm.
Jonathan. Was that
Mhm.
programmatic SEO?
No, it is not. I've been like racking my brain trying to find niches where you can input it into 3.5 instead of 4 in Koala, where basically the information has been the same for years. It's never going to change, so you don't really need 4 to use, you can use 3.5 turbo for it. So I hit on something which I'm not going to disclose because I've only seen 2 other sites doing this so far, where basically we are putting in just the keyword. We don't have to do any editing hardly at all to the content. It's just copy it over, put the featured image in, hit publish. So it's not like location style programmatic or anything like that. Like I am doing some programmatic on some sites. I'm not doing the traditional type of programmatic though, where I'm just like filling out a spreadsheet and uploading it. I'm adding like some like facts and stuff for my programmatic to make it stand out a little bit more. So
Okay. I know you can't reveal the niche or get too close to it, but can you give us some maybe like hints or ideas around the qualities that you might find for a niche that would fit into something like it? So tell us as much as you can, basically.
I've identified 2 key areas to look for niches for this. One is what I mentioned, which is the information never changes. So I don't know. So a niche that wouldn't be one that I'm in would be something like if I was doing a food blog where I wanted nutritional information on, bananas, tomatoes, cucumbers, things like that. That's never going to change. That's the type of stuff I would do the bulk articles on like that. The other one is like there's no real consensus on the information. I don't have a religion site, and I don't want to get into like a religion conversation, but people have different interpretations of, things, like I guess like religious meanings of things like that. So that would be something that I would use for this as well. Although I know that niche doesn't pay well, so I know some people who are in it, so I don't advise people try that.
Although, yeah, if you start your own religion,
Hey,
it's
there you go.
usually profitable. Tax benefits all
Yeah,
over. So,
yeah.
okay. Interesting. Yeah, so that would be amazing if someone could find something like that. Now, do you usually stick to like the same niches over and over again because you know they work pretty well, or do you test new stuff all the time?
I'm testing new stuff all the time. I do have some core niches where, I've been in them so long, I've sold multiple sites in the niche where it's just like super easy for me to get stuff up, quickly, know what works. But I am always testing new niches just to see what's going on in them.
Okay. And on that note, we'll jump back. We talked about your portfolio, a lot of
Mhm.
sites. You said like 70 some odd sites, but many
Yeah.
of those are their tests. So
Mhm.
it's a much smaller number. But your general business model is to start sites, which you're good at growing them from scratch. You have a good formula, a good framework to do that, and then you'll sell them. So can you talk about that business model in general and give us some broad points around the whole thing?
Yeah. Basically, when I'm building a site to sell, I'm trying to identify things that have basically a high ceiling. So high income potential, lots of opportunities for content, lots of opportunities for monetization. And then I pick like one area of content and one area of monetization to focus on because when I'm creating sites to sell, what buyers like to see is a lot of opportunities available to them when they buy it because they not only want to make their money back, but they want to make more and do it in a short timeline. So that's really the challenge is finding things like that, primarily evergreen niches. I've sold a lot of water sports sites, which is a niche that I've worked in forever. But the problem with that is they're seasonal, so you tend to get lower multiples. It's a little more challenging to sell things like that. So evergreen is definitely better. And the sweet spot I find for selling sites is just under $100,000 for the valuation because they'll go pretty quick. You won't have people who, want to do financing and things like that. So
Okay. How long does it take you to grow a site from scratch to hit kind of the sweet spot that you're looking for, which is it like 75 to 100K US dollars
yeah,
roughly?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Usually, if something's growing really quickly, then I might try to get rid of around 50,000 for the sales price, just because when people see that, upward trajectory like that, they are quicker to buy, basically. And of course, the lower the sales price, the more, quickly it's going to sell.
How
But
fast? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, that's what I was just going to answer. It's gotten to be a longer timeline than it used to be to scale sites, just because it's gotten harder to rank and things like that. Most of the time, though, I would say 12 to 24 months, depending on the niche.
How long does it take for them to sell in, say the 50 to 100K range?
In that range, just a few days. Once you're over, 100,000, you can looking at like maybe a few weeks, depending on the niche. You get over 300,000 though, you could be looking at months. And then of course, evaluations, are down right now. Sales are down. So it's taking months for people to sell sites. I actually saw a few months ago, someone who works with an aggregator saying they're kind of waiting for 2 years to see the sites that basically survive all of this like downturn in the industry, and then they're going to like go crazy buying sites. So I've actually decided to hold on to all of my sites for the most part for that period, because I don't want to sell something at less than it's worth, when I can just be earning from it, in the interim. So.
And you don't have a specific need to get the cash up front or whatever.
Right. Although I did get an idea the other week, because I'm moving a new site to AdThrive, and they have a lower onboarding requirement for secondary sites. And unlike Mediavine, if you sell a site that's on AdThrive, even if it's under that 100,000 page views, the people not only get to stay on AdThrive, but they can then onboard other sites at that lower level. So I'm wondering if I can onboard a bunch of small sites to AdThrive in the next, few months, and then sell those at the regular multiple, because people will be able to get on AdThrive. So that might be something I actually test in maybe probably next year. But yeah.
Gotcha. That's like the kind of thing that would make them change the policy. They're like, how did all these
Yeah,
people
right.
get in here?
Yeah.
And they're loading on like crappy site. No, that won't
Yeah.
happen, I'm sure. So one other question. So you've been selling sites for years. You have a good reputation. Do you think that has a factor, plays a factor in how quickly you're able to sell sites up until you stop selling them, of course?
No, because Empire Flippers is who I primarily use, so they don't disclose who owns the site until someone actually puts down money and asks to see the information about it. I do sometimes sell sites privately, but I do that to save on the broker fee, which is usually 15%. But I actually really hate doing private sales, because you get so many tire kickers who really just want to see like what kind of site does she have and things like that. I've actually had people too who, when I've let them see a site, they said they didn't want it. I'll know that they have a site in the same niche, and then see them like take, copy all the keywords and stuff like that. So that's a really shitty part of this industry.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that happens all the time, and
Yeah.
it's unfortunate. And you bring up a good point. I mean, so if it's on Empire Flippers, they have whatever tens of thousands of potential buyers, and they're
Mhm.
looking for sites, and you found the sweet spot where 50 to 100K, 75 to 100K, where people will buy it. They're not going to maybe do the super long, super detailed due diligence
Yeah.
where, I mean, if someone's buying something for like $800,000, they're probably going to hire a couple third
Right.
parties
Mhm.
to check everything out, make sure everything was legit, and ask you a bunch of questions. I mean, you may be on a
Yeah.
few calls to do that. So
Mhm.
it's not as much, and you could potentially see all the potential for growth, but you're
Yeah.
like, I want out of it because it's a good opportunity for the buyer too. So
Mhm. Yeah.
question from Jonathan: has Shawna used age domains? If so, have you seen a clear advantage in terms of speed to that selling point?
Yes and yes, because obviously with an age domain, I'll say like 95% of the time it works like it's supposed to. You start ranking immediately, which means you start earning immediately. So you don't have all those months while you're like waiting to rank and waiting to earn. So you actually get to that 6 to 12 months that you need showing that you're earning income to flip the site. So that's actually my preferred way to go about it. Of course, we've seen age domain prices just skyrocket in recent years, and I don't know if anyone actually follows, GoDaddy auctions trying to buy their own domains. Prices that things go for are crazy on there. Sometimes you'll see something that's only worth a couple $1,000s go for like $50,000, and then a month later you'll see like Indonesian casino links on it or something crazy. So yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, and shout out to our friends Otis Global over there. They have a great marketplace.
Mhm.
And another question from Jonathan here. Have you had any indexing issues or de-indexing when publishing in large volumes, say like, 1,000 posts or something like that?
Yes, last year I launched a more traditional programmatic SEO site with like 700 posts, I think. It wasn't a new domain. I'd owned it for quite a long time, but I never really knew what to do with it. It's focused more on like local events is the niche I was targeting. So it had never really been a live site though. So I guess in Google's mind, it was like a new domain. So I put all this content on, wouldn't fucking index for anything. I did get see some success starting a Facebook page for it, and then putting all the posts like in buffers that they would post on there, and that did get some both traffic to the site as well as some of the pages indexed. And then come up last month, the site hit a year old, started getting indexed. So there was clearly something about either where the domain had been registered for so long and never been live, or the number of posts, or just the type of content, where for a full 12 months, it just would not index the content. And even the stuff that through Facebook would get indexed, it would end up de-indexed after a few weeks. Run it back through Facebook again through buffer, get indexed again, 2 weeks later, de-indexed. So no, I didn't try sending any backlinks to it, so that could be part of it. But when I saw what was happening, I was just like, well, let's see what happens with this if I do nothing. So
All right. Yeah. And when you run into those situations, what do you do? I mean, there's a little bit of a playbook, right? There's a few things you
mhm,
could try, but when you run it through buffer, you get these social links,
mhm.
probably don't get any traffic, but it's still allowing Google to index it. Yeah. What do you do when it keeps getting de-indexed and you're like just spinning your wheels?
Now, most of the time, I do find that the social links, I'm getting tongue tied there, they are enough to kind of force it through. If that doesn't work, there's like is it called Index Me Now? I think it's like a paid tool that you can use to force index stuff. I've tried that. I've had about 50-50 success with that though. For me though, a lot of the times I will just like let it sit, like I said, to see what happens. I have had some success actually changing the slug. So going back into the post and changing what the URL is, and that will work sometimes if you then go into Search Console and force index it. Um, I've not yet had a site just like refuse to ever get indexed. I think if that were to happen, if we had gone more than 12 months and this particular site hadn't worked, I would just change domains. Of course, with that site, I hadn't done any link building, so I'd probably try link building first, but I would be a little hesitant with the types of links I would get for that because I wouldn't want to pay for super high quality links, not knowing if the site itself was going to stay live. Because if the site never got indexed, I wouldn't want to 301 it to a new site. So I would lose the power of those links.
Okay. Gotcha.
I know that
Well,
was a lot, but
that makes sense. I mean, and the thing is, we run across folks. I'm sure you get emails or you see it in the forum, in your forum there, where you know people have quite a lot of content on their site, handwritten, that is actually pretty
Mhm.
good. Maybe they're interested in it, and maybe only like half of their URLs are indexed.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not 100% sure what's going on. Typically, they don't have very many links at all. Maybe they've
Yeah.
completely ignored link building. That's often the common factor. But then I've also seen, some sites where they do have quite a bit or quite a few backlinks. They also have like social traffic as well. And then something's going on and whatever, 25% of the URLs are not indexed. And they used to be indexed. So I don't know.
Yeah.
There's always random stuff going on. So many factors. Have you seen that at all?
Yeah, I actually had a site that got hit in the May update of last year where a bunch of the content just suddenly was not indexed. The site was 8 years old. It had been getting like 150,000 page views a month. So it was like mind blowing. And what I ended up discovering and managing to recover that site was that Google had put me in a specific box in terms of topical relevance. And so all of the content outside of that box is what had gotten de-indexed. What I actually had to do was I took that site and I split it into 9 other sites based on all of those topic clusters that had gotten de-indexed. And that is what finally recovered the main site. Was basically I had strayed out of my lane, basically, that Google had put me in. What's
Damn.
really confusing and what I've never figured out is why for 8 years was it okay to me for me to be in all of those other lanes, right? So
Yeah, yeah. That's it. How the fuck did you figure that out?
I figured it out because I have a branded domain name for it, and like I thought it was really clever at the time, but there is a word in it that Google associates with the box that they put me in. So even though I had spent 8 years telling Google that this site is about X, Y, and Z, that one word in that domain clearly has restricted me to that one box.
How about that? That's
Yeah.
crazy. How long did it take for, the other sites to whatever get traffic and rank and all that stuff?
Some of them are not getting anywhere near what they were because they're on brand new domains, and I've just not had time to build links to them. What I've done is I focus on the content that was earning me the most money when it was on the first site. So one of those sites that's doing the best, collectively, it's getting like 10,000 ish a month right now for its traffic. Another one actually just popped this past month and it's at 45,000, where it had been doing like only 5,000. So it really popped. And it's not seasonal, so I'm not sure what's going on there. I haven't had time to check it out. But some of the content too that never really popped on the main site is doing a lot better on this like niche down site that I put it on too. So it's actually been a really interesting experience for me in terms of digging deeper into topical relevance, how Google treats sites that have zero authority in terms of backlink power, but are crushing it with topical relevance, because there are a lot of keywords for these other sites that I've had to create from this main site where they're DR0, but they're on page one with all sites that are DR80 plus. So it's definitely like it's kind of been mind blowing in
Yeah.
terms of what's going on with it.
Interesting. Well, we're live here with Shawna Newman from Skipblast, and we're gonna come around to some questions here. I see a lot of people were asking questions, so I have marked them. We'll spin around to those in a second. And if you have the opportunity, hit the thumbs up. It'll potentially help other people find the video. I don't know if it works, but everyone says that. So, okay. So we talked just a little bit about link building, but I know that's something that you and I have had a lot of. We think links work, and I know it's very popular to say like, lose weight without dieting and blah blah blah, like get traffic without building links. But it turns out links are pretty important. So can you talk about the, I guess, the priority you put link building, maybe some specific methods that you find really effective?
I think link building is essential for every site. I think you can skate by on low competition content without links, but you're really handicap yourself in terms of your site's potential and honestly your revenue potential if you're not building links. The type of links that you're going to need is really going to depend on the niche that you're in. You're obviously going to need both a lot more links and a lot stronger links for something like personal finance, than something like a ping pong website. And I got started in this industry when you could buy links through Build My Rank where you were making like 150 word posts with your keyword in it and you just send those to your site and then you're on page one, crushing it. Um, I find that even today, PBN links are still effective if you are doing it right. Throughout the years, I've actually rented PBN links myself from, I can't remember the name, Diggity's old link service, and now it has the new name. It's like called Rank Club, I think, maybe, or something like that. I don't know. They are still using the same sites that they used 12 years ago. So I don't actually advise that you rent links from them. I tested them again not too long ago, and it was a site I had seen, like 10, 12 years ago. I think if you're going to do PBN links, though, you need to do them yourself, and you have to think of them as mini sites. I built all of my PBN sites as just basically micro niche sites, quite honestly. That's the most effective because you have that topical relevance that you're sending to your site. I don't have a very large PBN network right now. At one point, I had almost 300 sites in my PBN network several years ago. These days, though, what I primarily focus on is Hero, guest posts, link insertions, or niche edits, which are basically the same thing. And that's kind of the core links that I focus on. I think it's also important for anyone who's new to link building that you don't build only one type of backlink. You don't want your backlink profile to be 100% guest post or things like that. You need to have it, broken up with basically a wide variety of types of links, both because you never know if Google's going to devalue a certain type of link, but also you look like you're not link building if you have a variety of types of links. I think that answered everything there.
Yeah. On that note, I agree with most of what you said. I'm curious. It seems like just doing Haro would be random enough, and you potentially could get natural links off of that. Any thoughts on it?
The problem with only doing Haro for 99% of sites is that you have no topical relevance in the types of links that you're getting. Now, if you have a site that's maybe just fitness or just personal finance or just business and marketing, I think you could build your entire backlink portfolio using Haro, having all topical relevance. Most sites aren't in those niches, though. So I think that's where you get hurt, and you're going to get beat by people who are getting, DR10 links that are all niche relevant. So
okay, and many of those potentially could be easy enough to get or land an actual real guest post. Especially, actually, if you got some press mentions, you have a pretty good chance to pitch and get a guest post, like a real actual guest post on a regular real site if the press is covering you. Okay.
Now, one thing that I have noticed in the last 12 months or so that seems to be baked into the algorithm that not very many people are doing is citation links. Those are traditionally for more real world businesses. But Google seems to be prioritizing those more and more, even for niche sites. And when you can get an address online, a phone number online, things like that, I find that sends that little extra trust signal that it takes maybe to get an edge on someone else who's doing more aggressive link building.
I was just chatting with Kyle Roof this morning for an interview that'll come out soon. And we talked about EAT and a couple of the factors like that. And he brought up citations as well, which, some things I haven't thought about in a while, but I mean, it takes a little bit more work, and a lot of people are lazy. So if you can get a little bit of an edge and you do whatever, 4 or 5 things that give you a 1% boost, it makes a difference compounded. So.
Well, and I really think they've turned the dial up on that, like I said, in the last 12 months. So
interesting. All right. Well, let's get to some of the questions here. This one's from Marcus. I'm thinking of building a site in a competitive niche, but to focus on less competitive terms. It has expensive products and recurring commissions. Do you think it has potential?
Yes. I mean, I would probably consider going into that if those terms that you've identified are showing weaker sites ranking on page 1. I think anyone who's ever considering going into a competitive niche, though, needs to be thinking in the back of their mind, at some point, I'm going to have to spend a lot on link building to compete. Because, you don't want to be satisfied with just making $200 a month for the site's lifetime, especially if it's high ticket items with recurring commissions. Because as more SEOs find that niche and see that there's recurring high commissions, you're going to get more and more competition. They're just going to come in, steal all of your keywords, and they're already going to have that link budget, and you don't want that to happen.
For your sites. So we've
Mhm.
kind of gone through the example where it takes 12 to 24 months. Maybe you're
Mhm.
using an age domain from a premium service like Otis or elsewhere. Maybe you found it on your own or something,
Mhm.
and you're adding content, you're potentially link building. Your goal is to sell it for $90,000. What budget range, I'll make it a little bit easier for you. What budget range would you give for the domain, for the content, for the link building over, again, we'll just say 24 months. So we'll do 24 months, 90,000 bucks. How much are you spending for each one of those?
I'm going to say it's going to depend on the niche that I want to go into. I would prioritize the bulk of my spend for an age domain with an amazing backlink profile. I would want things that are links that are hard to get. I would also prioritize topically relevant backlink profile. Whenever I'm evaluating an age domain for a project like this, I actually take out a piece of paper. I go through the entire backlink profile in Ahrefs, and I categorize each link: travel link, general news link, food link. And what I want to see when I'm done is that I have the most little tick marks in the niche topically relevant bucket compared to anything else. And I say that, even if, you've got BBC links, government links, things like that, you still want to see a lot of topically relevant ones, especially if they're hard to get. Like I saw a site not too long ago that was, and you could use it to do like telescopes and things like that on the site. And it had links from NASA. So like that would be like the ideal type of site to get. So I would prioritize that. I don't know that I would spend any more than $10,000 though on a domain, just because there is like that 5% chance I feel like where your age domain just won't work. Um, and then honestly, I would use AI content first drafts, and then I would optimize that and edit it in something like Phrase, Surfer, ScaleNut, anything like that, to make that a little more like not as telltale AI content. And then I would spend, depending on the niche, anywhere from 500 to 5,000 a month on links. I think for me, the niches that I'm in, the most I've ever spent upfront is around 25,000 in that first month. So,
Okay. And you said 500 to 5,000
mhm.
for links per month.
Yes.
Okay.
And obviously, as you like, I like to front load all of my expenses so that by the time I'm ready to sell, if they're looking at a 12-month history, I'm not spending as much money in the last 12 months as I did the first 12. So I get, a better, basically money in my pocket there at the end. So front load all of your costs, including your link building. Focus on getting the best, most expensive links at the beginning. And what you may start to see is you can scale down how much you're spending on links because you've already got the best links. You're already dominating. Now you're just doing kind of like maintenance links, so that you're avoiding like link decay and link rot, and you're also keeping your competition at bay.
Very good. Dialing in just a little bit closer
Mhm.
on the content. So you're saying first drafts, you could use AI content. How much budget would you assign for that per month?
If I had more time than money, I would get an API key from OpenAI and I would use a tool like ZimWriter for $10 a month, or I would use Cuppa, which has like a one-time fee. I don't know what their fee is right now because I got in at $99. Because then you're going to get your articles for around 30 to 90 cents an article. Then your only other cost would be Phrase or Surfer or something like that. If I had more money than time, then I would use Koala, um, because their outlines are pretty good the first time around. Create it through that, then pop it into, Phrase or Surfer or something.
Okay. And how would you go and update them in the future? How would you figure out what to do? Because I imagine at some point you're getting traction. Originally it was AI. Maybe
Mhm.
you want to make it better.
I think you could still pop it back into Phrase or Surfer or SkillNet or something like that, since they all basically look at what's currently ranking. Then you can see like what you're missing. I also like to honestly just manually inspect the other sites that are on page one, look at their H2, see if they've covered something that I have missed, something new has come on the scene since I did my original post, things like that.
Okay, cool. So overall, in like a year or two, you might put, um, I don't know if I'm doing the math right, but we'll say like 25 to 50K or so into a
Hmm.
site
Yeah,
over the course
yeah.
of 2 years.
Yeah, assuming you're not like in website hosting, VPNs, personal finance, or something like that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, let's keep going through some of the questions here. So, someone asked, do tools like grammar check and word cleanup AI detection? What do you think, Shawna?
That's an interesting question because I've actually seen that tools like Originality AI will rank something as human written until you put it in Grammarly and then put it back in, and then it gets flagged as AI content. Personally, I put all of my AI content, except for the bulk testing that I'm doing, I put it in Grammarly first, just to do my cleanup there first. I check their plagiarism stuff. I plagiarism check it in Copyscape, and then Phrase does its own, which I think is actually more sensitive. They have a plagiarism check in there as well, just because not only is AI notorious for just lifting, content from other sources. I find that this happens a lot if you're using 3.5 Turbo and Koala and any other tool. You're going to have more plagiarism issues than if you had used 4. So
Niche site Chris asks, how are buyers reacting to full AI or AI assisted sites, or do they not care if it seems to be working?
I actually haven't sold any sites using AI. Maybe in 4 to 6 months I will have. Um, I think though that like I feel like there's a few different types of buyers. Like I've sold a lot of sites to people who are retiring, who are looking for a better place to park their money, and they know nothing about this niche, this industry in general. So I feel like it's not going to be a concern for people like that. I feel like you're going to have that pocket of people who are like strictly no AI. They're not really going to know if you've cleaned it up, though. I feel like also. For me personally, I always try to make the best sites I can make, whether I'm writing the content myself, outsourcing it to another writer, or using AI. And I think if you're doing that and you're honest about what you've done, I don't see any problem with it.
I tend to agree. I think some people might be a little nervous in the short term. I mean, I personally would be, but maybe not more nervous than just a regular website with
Right.
human written content, because algorithm changes are weird sometimes and they don't
Yeah.
do what maybe Google intends, and maybe it's a little
Mm,
unexpected.
yeah.
But I think, like in a few years, we'll see like AI sites, AI content are working really well, or
Mhm.
they're not, or it's just random, and it depends on the specific niche and the competitive content out there, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, I do some client work, like I'm pretty selective in who I work with, but like I had clients ask for AI content because they knew it would lower their cost. So there's also that factor involved in all of this.
Right. Interesting. Okay. So continuing to move on, what's your take on EAT, EEAT, as far as schema, author, contact info, and so on?
Okay, so I actually back in, God, I think it was like 2012 maybe, did a fairly brief stint as a Google rater. My wife actually started doing it after I did, and she did it up until 2019. So I'm like well versed in how Google raters assess EAT. Every task a Google rater gets is timed, and you cannot exceed that time or you lose your job. They give you sometimes 10 sites on each side of the screen to assess in like 3 minutes. So you cannot accurately assess every site for authority. So I think it's a load of shit, honestly. I think it's all backlink based. Um, I think if you have strong enough backlinks, it doesn't matter. Um, I suspect there are instances where, like a human person at Google really digs into a site and then they look for things like an address, a phone number, blah, blah, blah. But the fact of the matter is, I can create a fake person on, Midjourney. I can put any fucking address that I want on my site, any phone number I want. I can create fake LinkedIn profiles. You can create a whole footprint for a fake person. So I feel like this is a lot like we talked about earlier when they're trying to scare people into not doing things. It's just links,
Right.
it's just links. So
I didn't know that you and your wife did
yeah.
actual like Google rating stuff. Well, it's perfect. Perfect because I again chatted with Kyle this morning, and the focus was on EAT, and he had some good tips because I've largely just kind of ignored it for
Mm-hmm.
some of the specifics that Jonathan asks about here with like the contact information and address and all that stuff. And most of it is easy enough to do, right? To just
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Yep.
make a little bit, even if you're making it up, but you can make a few changes. I actually have an address that I could put on sites that I still don't because I'm like, I think it's pretty normal to not put contact
Mm-hmm. Yep.
information because you don't need it for like the entity that
Yeah.
I'm thinking of. But anyway, the point is, it's interesting that you only as a rater had a super short amount of time.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that there even are raters
Yeah. Yeah.
because it sounds crazy. Do
Well,
you
I
go
think
ahead?
I think there's one well-known site in this industry which ended up getting a manual penalty because everybody talked about it. Conch House. They didn't have contact information on their site, and those guys made like $1 million a month or some crazy shit, right? They were crushing it online, no eat at all. They only got taken down because everybody was talking about it and brought it to Google's attention. So
Got it. Do you know if there's some threshold for like the actual manual review for like an actual rater to look at the site, or you might not be able to say it? Also,
yeah,
you probably
yeah,
sign
we
NDAs.
did have to sign NDAs. We never got like, well, that's not true. We did get individual. There was like a page quality task where it would just be single pages, and there'd be just like a bullet list of questions to answer. So those may have been related to possible manual things. And in those ones, you did get a little more time than the ones where you had 10 on each side. But none of the tasks really gave you enough time to adequately do the job. And like new tasks would start out with plenty of time, which was great because then you could do other shit while you were supposed to be working. But they always basically put the time down so you didn't have hardly any time to do it. Whatever site it is that's actually in the Radar guidelines, I feel like is it SiteJabber or Trustpilot, or there's like a specific like reputation site in the Radar guidelines. That's what they told people who were doing the rating test to look at for reputation information. But like not every site has that. So there's no way they were penalizing sites for not being on those sites. Otherwise those sites wouldn't be ranking. So
Got it. Okay. Very interesting. Yeah. So the interview with Kyle, it'll come out in a few weeks here, so everyone keep an eye on for open for that. Okay, we're gonna blast through some questions. Are you able to go a little bit long today?
oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay. So mediocre asks a question. He says, I'm building my websites with a static site generator called Astro. There's no content management like in WordPress. All the content needs to be coded in. Would it be a problem if I decided to sell it?
Yes. So you're going to limit your audience for buyers in terms of people who either are fine with working with that platform or who either have the knowledge or the resources to pay someone to convert it. And then that's going to be an extra step for them. So I think you'll both be left on the marketplace longer without selling, and probably get a lower valuation just because there's less of a market for it.
I agree. Yep. Johnny asks what I think of PBN's private blog networks, and I think they're fine. They can be effective. I don't advise them for most people
Right.
because it's
You can fuck
risky.
it up.
Yeah, it's a little bit risky, and if you don't know what you're doing,
Hmm.
there's a even higher risk factor. It takes time and money and effort to set this up. And generally, you're probably better off spending your time elsewhere and your resources
Yeah.
elsewhere. But if it interests you, it's a great exercise to learn about SEO and site management and how all this stuff works together. But you have to have plenty of time and plenty of money and be very well
Mhm.
organized. Shauna, what do you
Yes.
think?
Yes, because you can't have all of your PBN sites on the same hosting. And you're also going to run into the problem of, back when I had so many PBN sites, nobody was buying H domains other than for PBNs. So they were like only a few $100s a piece.
Yep.
So now I can only imagine if you're building a big PBN, how many thousands of dollars it's going to cost you. I'm actually in the process of testing right now, making a PBN using all freshly registered domains, because I'm curious if 10 topically relevant micro niche sites uses a PBN will be as effective. So,
Right. And I mean, just if you had lots of money
yeah.
and in time, I would potentially buy blogs
Yes.
and essentially you're creating a small media company, right?
Yep.
Here's a network. I'm acquiring my competitors, and
Mm-hmm.
then I mean, you could even acquire like podcast and YouTube channels and
Yep.
link them all together. And then it looks like a media company basically.
Yep.
And it actually is a media company. You could get traffic and earn money from each of them. And then it's not really a PBN. You're just like a company in that industry. And there are many
Or
examples of that.
just as risky but cheaper is buying H domains to do 301 redirects.
Right. And that is, I just had Kyle Claver on not too long ago, and he did a series of these, and it's highly effective and it works really well. But if you have a good budget, you can slowly like
Mm-hmm.
add, acquire new sites essentially, and just
Yeah.
add those domains on. Have you done a lot of that?
Yes, the key with that though is not fucking up your anchor text profile on your main site, because if you 301 too many sites too quickly, it totally fucks it up and then
Okay.
you tank. So,
So what happened? Like, can you expand on that a little bit more for people that maybe didn't follow?
yeah, so let's say that my site is called, I don't know, like gamerguide.com, right? So I want most of my anchor text profile from backlinks to be, like gamerguide.com and things like that, right? But I buy like, I don't know, animalcrossing.com, and I redirect it, and it has, 100 anchor text links that say Animal Crossing. And then I buy a Minecraft site, and it's got 50 that say Minecraft. And then I buy another one. I don't know. I don't play a lot of games. Tetris, right? So basically, I end up where my anchor text profile is primarily Minecraft, Tetris, and Animal Crossing instead of gamerguide.com. You're not going to rank for anything because you basically have totally screwed up your anchor text profile so that Google can't tell what your site is about or anything like that. So you can only 301 age domains when your anchor text profile can absorb those without getting fucked up. So you still need to keep at the top of your anchor text profile in Ahrefs or whatever, brandable.com, generic stuff like website or click here, things like that. You don't want the anchor text from the domains that you 301 to overpower your core anchor text.
Okay. And like overall, like dilute it down.
Right. Yeah, that's the word I
Got
was
it.
looking for.
Perfect. And even if you were directing the Tetris one, for example, to your Tetris content
Right.
silo, that
Yeah.
would still dilute it too much, right?
Yes. Yes. Because
Okay.
it's your overall anchor text profile for your site. And you can check that in Ahrefs or any tool like that to see like how many links are pointed at my site that are my brandable domain, that are, my domain.com, things like that, so that before you do it what you're looking at.
What percentage do you aim for that brandable type anchor text?
Real businesses, that is the main percentage of their type of anchor text and their backlink. So that's what I always try to aim for. It's always a challenge though if you're building links like guest posts and stuff to your buying guides and your internal pages, because you don't want to skew it too much and like basically trigger Google to check out your site.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Great. So moving on, you kind of answered this before, but Marcus asked about your team. What do they do? Do you have a VA? So if you just want to hit that really quick.
Yeah, like I don't have anyone who is like all the time with me right now. Like the longest I've ever had anyone work for me was a writer that worked for me for like almost 4 years. I don't have VAs because I'm always jumping around on which sites that I work on. But I do have like some core people that I'll go to if they are available and say, hey, I need you, for a few months. Can you come do this for me? And they will. So.
Do you use videos on your websites? And what are your thoughts on, maybe including demos or YouTube videos from other creators?
If you can include your own videos, that works the best. The second best is making GIFs to put in your post. I find that works really well. And then my third option would be to use someone else's because I don't want to lose someone going to someone else's YouTube channel and then possibly their site. So that's why I do that last.
Okay. And do you create YouTube channels for some of your bigger sites, or where do you stand on that?
I am very pro YouTube. I actually started talking about this last year before faceless channels became all the rage in the industry here. Because it's a new revenue stream once you hit monetization requirements, and it is a great traffic stream. It also helps you gain brandable searches in Google. So 100% advise creating YouTube channels for your sites. Faceless channels work just fine. And even if you can't be consistent with it so that you reach monetization and things like that, definitely do it. I know we talked about this earlier. I actually just launched a new growth agency, is what I'm calling it, where we are actually offering as a service starter YouTube channels for people. We're doing done for you sites that come with YouTube channels, but we're also doing just standalone faceless YouTube channels. So if you don't have the skills, you can come to me.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, and we got more questions coming through, but we'll hit some of that stuff too. And your YouTube channel. I
Yeah.
want to talk about that some. So Bajat says my site is ranking, or my site page ranking is stuck on page 4 for a month. Such a it's a tough sentence. What can I do to push it up? Um, it always comes down to content and backlinks. So Shawna,
Mhm.
what would you do?
First, do you have any internal links pointed at the post? If not, get on that. Second, try dodging it with social. Like I said, Facebook, post on a Facebook page so that people will see that. You can do Twitter as well. Do you have Pinterest pointed at it? I would do that. Also, look at the post, see if there's a problem compared to what's on page one that you can take care of. Maybe you're not covering all of the topic to meet intent. Finally, external backlinks.
It's always the same stuff.
Yeah.
Always the same stuff. So you're doing more YouTube videos, which we've linked
Yep.
up in the title of this video. So what are you focusing on there on your channel?
Lately, I've been doing primarily income reports for my small sites that I have on Ezoic, as well as I've started a new series for people who are like completely new to doing all of this, kind of like walking them through the steps one by one. It's a slow process for me because I prioritize my sites because that's where most of my income comes from. But I'm also trying to also give some tips on the channels as well for like more advanced topics, things that I'm discovering, with my own sites.
Okay. How's it going? How do you like YouTube?
I really like creating the videos. I really hate editing the
Mm.
videos. But it is something that I do want to try to prioritize more because I feel like it's easier for me to get my points across on video compared to, basically in the text and things like that.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, if you're writing your monthly income reports over on your blog already at Skipblast,
Yeah, yeah,
and you kind of have the script done, you can riff on
yeah,
that. So it's not,
yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of work to do video, but once you have your studio set up and hopefully you don't have to like set everything up every single time, that's always a pain in the butt, but
Yeah,
you've done the hard work and then you could just do the video. They
yeah,
accompany each other, and some people they don't want to read, and other people hate
yeah, yeah,
videos, so it's like
yeah.
you could do both and serve everybody. So all right, now you also started essentially an agency, a services business. So talk a little bit about that. What are you doing over there? What's the plan?
It's called Growth Cupid. That's growthcupid.com. I was initially going to start it out as just like focusing on backlinks because I feel like with AI and everyone being able to do content velocity at scale, that backlinks is really going to become where we're going to have to stand out basically against other sites. And, I've tested tons of services and most of them are really shitty, quite honestly, because they're all working off of the same master list of sites. So you can go to any of them and get the same links and you really overpay for them. So what I really started out wanting to do was to offer a link service that was affordable. But that's a challenge because people charge for links, right? So it's impossible to basically offer something that is super high quality at a crazy affordable price. So we are offering backlinks on that, but it's going to be a mixture primarily of guest posts and link insertions because that allows me to be able to identify high quality targets while still offering it at an affordable price. And since I was, working on this since I think it was May or June, we saw niche website builders actually go bankrupt. Um, and so then I was like, oh, well, there's a hole in the market now. And I have all these other things that I've both sold in the past and could sell again, right? So I worked on how I could expand GrowthCupid to offer more services to fill that need. And I used to sell done for you niche sites back in 2016, maybe, I think it was, maybe 2014. So I put that back on. One thing that we're actually doing different than other providers is we have a package that does include the YouTube channel started for you. I don't think anyone else is offering that right now. And I also have Skipblast Digital where I do client work. So I'm moving some of that over to GrowthCupid as well to do like managed SEO for people who need it. And then I do have some monthly packages that are content and links. It's going to be the AI content that I'm using on my sites as well as client sites, where it's AI first draft, and then we edit it, in phrase, and then we also run it through all of the placeholder and checkers to make sure it's basically high quality content.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah. With niche website builders going down, there definitely was a gap in the market.
Yeah.
And well, we'll just leave it at that. So the other part, which the obvious question is, how are you going to get around not posting on the same sites like all the other services? And that's the big complaint that I always had. Or
Right.
it's clearly a content mill, right? Where they have
Yes. Yes.
18 posts going up a day. You can see it's random stuff, or it's
Yes.
like a quote news site. Maybe they get a little
Mhm.
bit of traffic, but it's just like one topic area.
Right.
Like you could quickly identify a garbage site. So how are you getting around it?
Well, I've been building links for my own sites for so long, as well as for other people, that one of my core things that I've always done is, really investigating the site, looking at that outbound link profile, trying to determine is this a link farm? Are they giving links to places in bad neighborhoods like, casino links and things like that? So that's a core part of the process in terms of identifying targets. And we're not working off of a list. I'm never intending on creating a list of targets. Every order that comes in for links is going to be like the first time in that niche for us. We're going to be looking for places, that we can get links from where they're not being abused by everyone else. It's not obvious that they are, selling links to every guest post marketplace and things like that. And that's another one of the challenges that I've, discovered I'm going to have, which is the most obvious sites that you find are the ones that are being sold everywhere. And I do have an Excel sheet too that is like a blacklist of sorts of sites, like Kelly's Thoughts on Things and residencestyle.com, things like that, that are definitely no-goes for us. So.
Who's a good customer? Who's the right customer for some of the packages?
Well, the smallest package, if I remember correctly, is only $500 a month. So I'm trying to have packages for everyone. And in order to offer it where it is affordable, but still high quality, like I said, it's going to be a mixture of guest post and link insertions for most of the packages. And I'm not able to guarantee that the site itself is going to be completely 100% topically relevant. So, but it will be in a topically relevant article, which based on my own portfolio and building links for my own sites is like what is required. It's not going to be on a site like, I don't know, let's say I have a water sports site that I'm buying links for. I wouldn't want a link on a site about marketing, right? So it's not going to be something like that, but it might be on a site that's about summer vacation. You know what I mean? So it's not 100% topically relevant, but it is going to be in an article that's niche relevant, and it's basically going to be a shoulder niche for this site. So
Okay.
based on the testing I'm doing, I think I've set enough of a turnaround time that we can accomplish that. So
Okay. Very cool. And we have a few more questions popping in here, but the other thing is, so that's kind of the lower end to make it affordable.
yeah.
What's like the high end? Because some people are like, all right, I'm ready to do this. Like they're making good money, they want to scale it up. What's like the premium level of like link building, for example?
If I remember correctly, I put it at around 10 to 15 links a month, which is, I don't have it in front of me. I think it's like $2,000.
Okay,
I could be
got it.
wrong. Like people can check. Oh, and before we forget, I did set up the coupon code for your audience, 10% off, and the code is just Doug.
Perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
we got that in the show notes,
Okay.
so people could go check that out. And 10% off. Appreciate you offering that up. I'm an affiliate, everyone, so I get a commission to help support the show, and we appreciate it. Okay, let's hit
Put
these.
you in some new T-shirts, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, so this is from Jay, and Jay asks, "Are you posting during the core update or waiting until it comes to an end? Do you care about the
Not
core updates?"
only am I posting, but I've started new sites. Whenever there is an update starting is the best time to start a new site because you're going to have several months where like you don't have to worry, right?
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah, and it's you just have to live your life. You can't be scared of core
Yeah.
updates. Just do what you're
Yeah.
gonna do, and hopefully, like you have a plan that supports like a long time horizon. So these little blips along the way are
Mhm.
just inconsequential.
And you should be developing other traffic streams, social media, YouTube, Facebook, Pinterest, everything, so that if you do end up even if it's just collateral damage for a few months, you don't lose all of your traffic.
Yep. All right. Any good alternatives to the FatStacks forum?
I'm a big fan of Builder Society. Um, I also lurk in the FatStacks forum under an alias, but that is one of the best forums that there is. But for a free forum, Builder Society is my favorite.
Yeah, FatStacks is great. I haven't talked to John in a while. Need to have him on too. Okay, I think we are wrapping up, although we have Ariel that just popped on and she'll have to catch up later. Okay, cool. So, Shawna, I think we covered a ton here today. Thanks for joining me. Is there other
Mhm.
things that we should have talked about that we didn't bring up that's on your mind, or any question that you have an even better answer to now?
I don't think so.
Okay, great. So
Yeah.
you are over at Skipblast. You blog regularly, and people could check it out there. You also have your Growth Cupid, which people could check out the services and all the details there. And what else do you have? You also have your courses, right? So you have
Yes, blogging success engine. I took all of my courses, which were like almost $200 a piece, and I put them all in this one membership program, bloggingsuccessengine.com, which I think you have a link for below. And you get all the courses, and it starts at $49 a month, or you can do the yearly one, and you get a free site audit. So,
okay. And on my course, I drip it out, so it's
mhm.
irritating for everyone because you can't get all the content. But in yours, does everyone has access to everything? They could go sign up like right now,
Like,
49 bucks, get all the
yeah,
shit.
yeah, and then they can leave after 30 days, like some people do. Whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, learn everything in 30 days straight. How many
Yeah.
courses are there total?
I think there's 11, but also each month I'm doing live training workshops, and then those recordings are also being saved for people to view whenever. So, yeah.
Okay,
We're
cool.
doing age domain rebuilds this month. So,
Oh, That's a good one.
Yeah.
I need to, so this is a action item I'll give myself, Shawna. I need to go through and just like show all that you're offering in
Mhm.
in Blogging Success Engine, and then try to convince you to raise your prices because it sounds too cheap.
The prices are raising every month until I decide I'm not raising it anymore. So
Okay. Are people
it was cheaper.
grandfathered?
It was cheaper last month, so people missed out.
Okay. All right. Can I get access? Can I get free access to this?
Yeah,
Okay.
of course. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Well, thanks, Shawna. We got links for everything here, and please check out Shawna's channel as well over on YouTube. So thanks, Shawna, and we'll talk to you soon.
Mhm. Yeah, it was fun.